Hola Isis, welcome back to Lesson 6, Lección 6. The first thing we're going to learn today is the verb 𝐼𝑔𝑰𝑆. 𝐼𝑔𝑰𝑆 means to give. Here are the conjugations in the present tense. 𝐼𝑔𝑰𝑆, I give. 𝐼𝑔𝑰𝑆, you give. 𝐼𝑔𝑰𝑆, he, she or it gives. 𝐼𝑣𝑜s, the two of us give. 𝐼𝑔𝑰𝑆, the two of you give. 𝐼𝑣𝑎𝑚, we give. 𝐼𝑣𝑖𝑠, you give. 𝐼𝑣𝑎𝑛, they give. Now, to use this verb in a sentence, we are going to take the accusative case and the dative case, depending on the function of the objects. So, for the direct object, or in other words, the thing that is given, that thing, the noun, would take the accusative case. And for the indirect object, or in other words, the person that the thing is given to, that noun would take the dative case. So for example, 𝐻𝑌𝑰𝑹𝐺𝑰𝑃, I give you this gift. Sus, you, takes the dative case because you, sus, is the object that the thing is given to. So it's the receiver. Whereas 𝐻𝑌𝑰𝑹𝐺𝑰𝑃, this gift, this is in the accusative case. This is the thing which is given. So 𝐻𝑌𝑰𝑹𝐺𝑰𝑃, I give you this gift. Another example, sie gives 𝐻𝑍𝑛𝑎𝐻𝑢𝑛𝑑 she gives me the dog. 𝐻𝑍𝑛𝑎𝐻𝑢𝑛𝑑 in the accusative case. This is the thing which is given. 𝑚𝑖s, me, in the dative case. I'm the receiver. Sie gives 𝐻𝑍𝑛𝑎𝐻𝑢𝑛𝑑. Another example, 𝐼𝑔𝑰𝑆 uns 𝐴kraνα. Trees give us fruits. 𝐴κμος in the nominative case, because this is the subject. This is the subject which does the action of given. Uns, us, in the dative case, because uns is the receiver, is the indirect object. 𝐴kraνα in the accusative case. This is the plural accusative, because 𝐴kraνα is the thing which is given. Now, this sentence, 𝐴κμος given uns 𝐴kraνα, technically can also mean trees give us the fruit, because uns, apart from being the dative of 𝑉𝑖s, it can also be the accusative of 𝑉𝑖s, because the accusative and the dative just happen to be sharing the same form. And for the word 𝐴kraνα, apart from being the accusative plural of 𝐴κραν, meaning fruit, it can also be the dative singular. So technically, uns can be the accusative, 𝐴κρανα can be the dative. Hence, translating into trees give us the fruit. So when looking at this sentence, 𝐴κμος given uns 𝐴κρανα, it depends on the context on how we understand it. Of course, it would make much more sense to translate it into trees give us fruits, because that makes logical sense. But technically, grammatically, it can also mean trees give us the fruit. Another verb we're going to learn today is the verb 𝑟ώτιαν. 𝑟ώτιαν means to speak or to talk. Here are the conjugations. 𝑟ώτια, I speak, 𝑟ώτης, you speak, 𝑟ώτης, he, she or it speaks, 𝑟ώτιος, the two of us speak, 𝑟ώτιατς, the two of you speak, 𝑟ώτιαμ, we speak, 𝑟ώτης, you speak, 𝑟ώτιαντ, they speak. Here are some prepositions which can be used with the verb 𝑟ώτιαν. 𝑟ώτιαν to speak to, 𝑟ώτιαν be, to speak about, 𝌻𐌰𐌹𐌺����, to speak with. And the prepositions do, be, and myth both take the dative case for the noun which comes afterwards. So for example, 𝌻𐌰𐌹𐌺����, I'm speaking with you. 𝑑hs is in the dative case because it comes after the preposition myth, meaning with. 𝌻𐌰𐌹𐌺𐍃𐍰🍺🍺, we are talking about the children. 𐍰🍺🍺 is in the dative case again because it follows the preposition be. 𝌻𝑑h𝑡𝑢𝑡𝑢𝑛𝑑𝑎, she's talking to a dog. 𝑡𝑢𝑛𝑑𝑎 is in the dative case because it comes after preposition do. So any noun which comes after prepositions do, be, and myth takes the dative case. Some words which are derived from the verb 𝌻🍺🍺 include 𝑏𝌻🍺🍺, meaning to gossip, to murmur, to complain. 𝑚𝑖𝑡⍺🍺🍺, meaning to talk with. So 𝑚𝑖𝑡⍺🍺🍺 basically is the same as 𝌻🍺🍺 So instead of, for example, the first example here, 𝌻🍺🍺🍺, we can also say 𝑚𝑖𝑡⍺���🍺, also taking the dative case. Another word which is derived from the verb 𝌻🍺🍺 is 𝑢𝑛𝑟𝑜𝑡⍺🍺. This is an adjective meaning mute, or literally unspeaking. The verb 𝌻🍺🍺 is commonly used to denote the sense of speaking a language. So the word for language in the Gothic language is 𝌻👾. It is a feminine noun. And to say the Gothic language, we'd say 𝒍𝒻👾. And if we're trying to say speaking a language, commonly the word language would be in the dative case, because the dative case, apart from signifying to the noun, so apart from signifying the message of to, it can also signify the sense of using. So speaking in this language or speaking using this language, it is similar to how Slavic languages would use the instrumental case. This is the dative case in the Gothic language would have the meaning of how Slavic languages use their instrumental case. So 𝌻👾 is the dative singular for 𝌻👾. So 𝌻👾 meaning to speak a language or to speak in a language, to speak using a language. Technically, you can also say 𝌻👾. 𝌻👾 is the accusative of 𝌻👾. So the accusative case for 𝌻👾 is the same as the nominative case. Now, some examples. 𝌻👾, 𝒍👾, you speak Gothic, or you speak in Gothic, you speak using Gothic. 𝌻👾, 𒍿👾. 𝌻👾 is 𝌻👾, so you speak, plus a suffix u. Now, the suffix u is an interrogative enclitic, meaning if you add the suffix u to a word, the sentence becomes a question. So 𝌻👾 𒍿👾 would mean, do you speak Gothic? So 𝌻👾, and u added to the end turning the sentence into a question. Now, since due to phonetic reasons, the s sound at the end of 𝌻👾 would turn into a z sound. So an alphabetical change when the suffix "u" is added to the end. Technically, you can also say 𝑉 this 𝑔𝑜𝑡 to denote a question. The suffix "u" is not necessary to mean a question, although it is also commonly used. So this is a more detailed example for how the suffix "u" is used. For example, to denote a statement, we'd say, for example, you have dogs, we'd say �Հ𝑎𝑣𝑒𝑠 �Հundans. Hundans is the accusative plural of Hund, meaning dog. So �Հ𝑎𝑣𝑒s �Հundans, you have dogs. To turn it into a question, we'd add "u" to the end of the first word of the sentence. So in this case, �Հ𝑎𝑣𝑒𝑠 �Հundans. So "u" adding to the end of �Հ𝑎𝑣𝑒s, turning the word into �Հ𝑎𝑣𝑒𝑠 �Հ𝑎𝑣𝑒ss �Հundans, do you have dogs? Another way to say �Հ𝑎𝑣𝑒s �Հundans, you have dogs, is to change the word order, because word order doesn't really matter in the Gothic language. So you can also say �Հundans �Հ𝑎𝑣𝑒s. Now in this case, if the sentence �Հundans �Հ𝑎𝑣𝑒s, you have dogs, is to be turned into a question by adding the suffix "u", you'd say �Հundansu �Ｈ𝑎𝑣𝑒s. So notice the "u" added to the end of the word �Հundans. Another example, 𝌗𝐿𝐄𝐹𝐵𝐵𝑛𝑠 uns, he gives us gifts. To turn it into a question, by adding the suffix "u", we'd put "u" to the end of the first word of the sentence. In this case, 𝐼𝐵𝐿. So 𝐼𝐵𝐿 would turn into 𝐼𝐵𝐿𝐄. Now pay attention that the th sound at the end of the first word, in this case 𝐼𝐵𝐿, the th sound when adding an "u" to the end of the th sound would turn into the sound. So in this case, 𝐼𝐵𝐿 turns into 𝐼𝐵𝐿𝐄. So the whole sentence would be 𝌗𝐿𝐄𝐹𝐵𝐵𝑛𝑠 uns. Thus he gives us gifts. The sentence he gives us gifts, 𝌗𝐿𝐄𝐹𝐵𝐵𝑛𝑠 uns, we can change the word order a little bit into 𝐵𝐹𝐵𝐵𝑛𝑠 𝌗𝐿𝐄 uns, meaning the same thing. To turn this sentence 𝐵𝐹𝐵𝐵𝑛𝑠 𝌗𝐿𝐄 uns into a question, again, the suffix "u" to the end of the first word of the sentence, 𝐵𝐹𝐵𝐵𝑛𝑠 𝌗𝐿𝐄 uns. Another way to say, again, the same sentence in the statement form, uns 𝌗𝐿𝐿 𝐵𝐹𝐵𝐵𝑛𝑠, meaning he gives us gifts, adding an "u" to the end of the first word and turning the statement into a question, unsu 𝌗𝐿𝐿 𝐵𝐹𝐵𝐵𝑛𝑠. So "u" adding to the end of uns, turning it into unsu. Another way to turn a statement into a question is by adding the question marker 𝐼𝐵. This functions same as the suffix "u", and the question marker 𝐼𝐵 is added to the beginning of the sentence. So for example, 𝐼𝐵 rodis 𝐻𝐿𝐄𝐹𝐵. Do you speak English? Now, 𝐻𝐿𝐄𝐹𝐵 is a reconstruction, basically meaning English, similar to how 𝐷𝐿𝐄𝐹𝐵 means the Gothic language. So 𝐻𝐿𝐄𝐹𝐵 means English as in the English language. 𝐻𝐿 plus 𝐿𝐄𝐹𝐵 meaning language. So 𝐼𝐵 rodis 𝐻𝐿𝐄𝐹𝐵 is basically rodis 𝐻𝐿𝐄𝐹𝐵 meaning you speak English, adding 𝐼𝐵 to the beginning, turning it into a question. Another example, 𝐼𝐵 gakwithis. Do you agree? Gakwithis, you agree. 𝐼𝐵 gakwithis. Do you agree? 𝐻𝑌����𐍃��������, do you have children? 𝑉𝑉𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗𝑛𝑎𝑗 that you have children. So apart from using the question mark 𝐼𝑉, we can also use the suffix 𝑢 in this case. So for example, instead of saying 𝐼𝑉 rodis 𝑍𝑒𝑑𝑠, you can say rodisου 𝑍𝑒𝑑𝑠. Instead of saying 𝐼𝑉 gakwythis, you can say gakwythlisου. Instead of saying 𝐼𝑉 barna havats, you can say barnaου havats. Another sentence structure which is quite unique to the Gothic language is the structure of 𝐻𝐿𝐿𝐼𝐹. 𝐻𝐿𝐿𝐼𝐹 would roughly translate into to care about or to concern for. Now, 𝐻𝐿𝐿𝐼𝐹, of course, since we have the verb 𝐼𝐹 here meaning to be, to use it in any indicative sentence, we need to conjugate the verb 𝐼𝐹. In this case, in most cases, 𝐻𝐿 ist. And 𝐻𝐿 ist can be shortened into 𝐻𝐿 ist. And to explain how this works, 𝐻𝐿 ist does not literally mean to care about. It would, so for example, so someone cares about something. That someone who does the action of caring would take the accusative case. And that thing which is being cared about, or that someone which is being cared about, being concerned for, would take the genitive case. So for example, 𝐻𝐿 ist Sina, I care about you. Mich, meaning I, is the accusative case. And Sina, meaning you, is the genitive case. So if we're translating it forcibly into English word by word, it would roughly mean something like, it is cared to me of you. Something like that. Of course, it doesn't make sense in English, but in the Gothic language, it makes perfect sense. So 𝐻𝐿 ist Sina, I care about you. Another example, if we're saying you care about me, you would take the accusative case, and me would take the genitive case. So 𝐻𝐿 ist mina. Another example, 𝐻𝐿 ist 𝐻𝐿𝐿. We care about our children. So we are doing the caring. So we, in this sentence structure of 𝐻𝐿 ist, would take the accusative case. So 𝐻𝐿. Now, since when someone talks about caring about children, so in this case, 𝐻𝐿, since we are taking the dual, we are assuming that we, in the sense of two people, so a pair of parents. You can also say 𝐻𝐿 ist unser if we're talking about three or more people. Sorry, 𝐻𝐿 ist uns, or 𝐻𝐿 ist unsis, not unser. Apologies. And our children, since our children is the thing which is being cared about, this takes the genitive case. So, barne uncarem. 𝐻𝐿 ist barne uncarem. If we're talking about our children, as in our being three or more people, we'd say barne unsarem. So 𝐻𝐿 ist barne uncarem, or 𝐻𝐿 ist uns or unsis barne unsarem. Now here is a recap of the different cases of the personal pronouns. I believe we've looked at all of them, maybe most of them, in the previous lessons. Here we're putting it into the same table as a revision, let's say. So the first person singular, meaning I, nominative ik, accusative mik, genitive mina, dative mis. The second person singular, thu, thuk, sina, thus. The first person dual, so we as in two people, wit, unkis, unkara, unkis. The second person dual, the two of you, yut, inquis, inquara, inquis. The first person plural, vis, uns or unsis, unsara, uns or unsis. The second person plural, ius, isuis, isora, isuis. Now here is the third person personal pronouns in the declension. So third person singular male, masculine, is, ina, is, ima. Third person singular feminine, si, ia, isos, ise. Third person neuter singular, ita, ita, is, ima. Third person plural masculine, is, ins, ise, im. Third person plural feminine, ios, ios, iso, im. Third person neuter plural, ia, ia, ise, im. Now, one thing to notice, to remark upon, is that other than using this declension on the left here, other than using the declensions of is to denote the third person personal pronouns, we can also use the declensions of sa. So we've looked at the declensions of sa in the previous lesson, and sa means the or that. So instead of saying is to mean he, we can also use sa. Instead of saying, for example, ita to mean it, we can also use thata. Instead of using si to mean she, we can also use so, and so on and so forth for all the different cases. So the declensions of sa and the declensions of is can actually, no, they can be used interchangeably if we're using the declensions of sa to mean the or that. We can't use the declensions of is, but if we're using it to function as the third person personal pronouns, we can use both the declensions of is and the declensions of sa. A new possessive pronoun that we're going to introduce in this lesson is the pronoun of since, and this is the third person reflexive possessive pronoun. So basically, this pronoun is used to denote his, her, or their, or its. But this is only used when it is referring to the subject of the sentence. So first of all, the subject of the sentence has to be in the third person, and the thing which is belonging to scenes, so the thing that is being possessed, the person that's possessing the thing that scenes is describing has to be the same as the person which is the subject of the sentence. So for example, if I say she kisses her husband, this sentence, it can mean two things in the English language. It can mean she kisses the husband as in she is kissing her own husband, or she's kissing her husband as in she's kissing husband of another person. So in English, there's an ambiguity on whether which on whether if she and her is the same person in the sentence. But in the Gothic language, we do not have this ambiguity because we can use the reflexive possessive pronoun here, scenes, to denote that the thing that is being possessed is the same as the person which is possessing the thing that's being possessed is the same as the person which is the subject of the sentence. So here are the conjugations for the possessive pronoun scenes. So from the masculine singular to the neuter singular, and then the plural from nominative to dative. Scenes, sina, scene or sinata, sine, sinos, sina, sinana, sina, scene or sinata, sinans, sinos, sina, sinis, sinesos, sinis, sinese, sineso, sinese, sinama, sine, sinama, sinem, sinem, sinem. And the possessive pronouns means, meaning my, and thenes, meaning your, they conjugate the same as scenes. So the table would be the same for the endings here. Now, in the last lesson, we've looked at some declensions of nouns. We've looked at the R stem declensions. Today, we're going to look at a different type of declension, which is the ya stem declension. Here's the ya stem declension for the masculine nouns. So we have a word here, hariyis, meaning army. The nominative singular, hariyis, nominative plural, hariyos, accusative singular, hari, accusative plural, hariyans, genitive singular, hariyis, genitive plural, hariye, dative singular, hariya, dative plural, hariyam. Nouns which are declined like hariyis, there are andastathis, meaning opponent or adversary, and nithis, meaning kinsman or a male relative. So one thing to notice is that for the ya stem declensions, the nominative singular and the genitive singular is the same. Another type of ya stem declension is extremely similar to the one on the previous slide. This word here, herethis, meaning herdsman, and the declensions, the nominative singular, herethis, plural, heretios, accusative singular, hereti, plural, heretians, genitive singular, heretis, plural, heretiae, dative singular, heretia, plural, heretiam. Again, notice that the nominative singular and the genitive singular shares the same form. So this is a commonality for the nouns which take the ya stem declension. Some words which are declined, like the word hertis, are andis, meaning end, asnis, meaning a day laborer or hireling, pretis, meaning wheat, lekis, meaning doctor or physician, draginis, meaning advisor or counselor, siponis, meaning a follower, a disciple or a student, phoramathlis, meaning a leader, a chief, a ruler, okaris, meaning a scribe or writer, lesaris, meaning teacher or master, mortaris, meaning a publican, a tax collector, or a customs officer. So here are some sentences we can translate by using the declensions we've learned and the sentence structures that we've learned. So have a go at them. Here are the answers. First sentence. I care about the ant. 𝐻𝐿𝐄𝐿𝐼𝐴𝐻. Mick is in the accusative case. 𝐼𝐴𝐻 is in the genitive case. Technically, 𝐼𝐴𝐻 can also be in the nominative case, but because we have the sentence structure of 𝐻𝐿 here, we know that 𝐼𝐴𝐻 functions as a genitive. So I care about the ant. 𝐻𝐿, mick, 𝐼𝐴𝐻. Second sentence, the teacher gives his students fruits. 𝐶𝑎𝑙𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑟𝑖s So 𝐶𝑎𝑙𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑟𝑖s in the nominative case. 𝑎krana, this is the plural accusative. 𝑐𝑝𝑜𝑛𝑦𝑎𝑚 this is in the dative plural. So since we have the verb 𝐼𝐵𝑎𝑛, in this case 𝐲𝐿𝐄𝐃 here, we would take the accusative for the thing that's being given. So in this case, 𝑎krana, and the dative case for the people that the thing is given towards. The thing is given to. So in this case, his students 𝐶𝑝𝑜𝑛𝑦𝑎𝑚 in the dative case. Now here we can see the possessive pronoun, the reflexive possessive pronoun scenes being used. So 𝐶𝑛𝑚. The reason that we say 𝐶𝑝𝑜𝑛𝑦𝑎𝑚 𝐶𝑛𝑚 instead of 𝐶𝑝𝑜𝑛𝑦𝑎𝑚 is, instead of using the genitive of the personal pronoun is to mean his, is because 𝐶𝑝𝑜𝑛𝑦𝑎𝑚 belongs to the subject of the sentence, in this case 𝐶𝑎𝑙𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑟𝑖s. If I'm saying 𝐶𝑎𝑙𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑟𝑖s 𝐲𝐿𝐄𝐃 𝑎krana 𝐶𝑝𝑜𝑛𝑦𝑎𝑚 is, it can mean that the teacher gives someone else's students fruits. So the teacher gives his students fruits. In the English sentence, there is no clarity on whether the students is the students of this teacher in the beginning of the sentence or the students of someone else. But in the Gothic language, we can denote the difference between the two meanings. So 𝐶𝑎𝑙𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑟𝑖s 𝐲𝐿𝐄𝐃 𝑎krana 𝐶𝑝𝑜𝑛𝑦𝑎𝑚 𝐶𝑛𝑚. We know very well that the 𝐶𝑝𝑜𝑛𝑦𝑎𝑚 belongs to the same 𝑙𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑟𝑖s at the beginning of the sentence. Whereas if I'm saying 𝐶𝑎𝑙𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑟𝑖s 𝐲𝐿𝐄𝐃 𝑎krana 𝐶𝑝𝑜𝑛𝑦𝑎𝑚 is, it will mean that the 𝐶𝑝𝑜𝑛𝑦𝑎𝑚 is someone else's 𝐶𝑝𝑜𝑛𝑦𝑎𝑚, not necessarily the 𝐶𝑎𝑙𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑟𝑖s in the beginning of the sentence. Whereas if I'm using the possessive reflexive 𝐶𝑛𝑚, so using scenes, we'd refer the object 𝐶𝑝𝑜𝑛𝑦𝑎𝑚 back to the beginning of the sentence, 𝐶𝑎𝑙𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑟𝑖s. I hope I've made that clear. The third sentence, 𝐻𝐿𝑒𝑠𝑡 This doctor cares about our bodies. So 𝐻𝐿𝑒, we're using the sentence structure of 𝑝𝑎𝑟𝑎𝑣𝑖𝑠𝑎𝑛. So this doctor, the person which is doing the action of caring, would take the accusative case. So in this case, 𝐻𝐿𝑒𝑘𝐻 is in the accusative case. And the thing which is being cared about, in this case our bodies, would take the genitive case. So 𝐿𝑒𝑘 this is in the genitive. Fourth sentence, �𝐻്𝑰𝐹𝐺𝑎𝑛 So to say what, we've looked at this in a previous lesson. The word for what or who is 𝐻, and its declensions. In this case, we're using the neuter singular, which is 𝐻, to mean what, because there is no indication on what gender the thing that is said by the counselors is. So it can be anything that the counselors are saying. So in a generalized term, in a generalized meaning, we'd use the neuter. So 𐌻𐌰𐌹𐌺𐍺����𐌺 𝐻𝑍𝑒𝑑𝑟𝑎𝑘𝑖𝑛𝑦𝑜s. What are the counselors saying? 𝐻𝑍𝑒𝑑𝑟𝑎𝑘𝑖𝑛𝑦𝑜s takes the nominative because this is the subject of the sentence, and so 𝐻𝑍𝑒𝑑𝑟𝑎𝑘𝑖𝑛𝑦𝑜s is the one which is doing the action of quiescent. 𝐻𝑍𝑒𝑑𝑟𝑎𝑘𝑖𝑛𝑦𝑜s. What are the counselors saying? For the fifth sentence, is the army here? So here we are asking a question. So in this case, we can use the suffix of 𝑢 to make the sentence, to make the statement into a question. So in this case, ist sa Harry's head? If I'm just saying it as a statement, I'd say ist sa Harry's head to mean the army is here. Adding 𝑢 to the end of the first word, which is ist sa Harry's head. Or I can also say 𝑖ve ist sa Harry's head, to use the question marker 𝑖ve instead of the suffix 𝑢. The 𝑗 declensions also apply for neuter nouns. So here's an example of the declensions in the neuter noun. The example we're going to use is the word kuni, meaning kin, family, or race. So the nominative singular, kuni, plural, kunya, accusative singular, kuni, plural, kunya, genitive singular, kunyis, plural, kunye, dative singular, kunya, plural, kunya. Here are some words which are declined the same as the word kunyi. Adi, meaning bed. So this is another word for bed. We've previously, in the last lesson, learned the word ligers, which is a masculine noun following the R-stem declension. And here's another word meaning the same thing, which is body. Frathi, meaning reason, mind, or intellect. Nati, meaning net. Wadi, meaning deposit. Antbhakti, meaning service or ministry. Arabi, meaning heritage or inheritance. Karuni, meaning counsel. 𝑗𝑍𝑿𝑄𝑾𝑒𝑃𝑆, meaning peace. 𝐻𝑍𝑒𝑑𝑟𝑎𝑘𝑖𝑛𝑦𝑜s, meaning knowledge. 𝑐𝑟𝑖𝑘𝑖, meaning dominion. 𝑐𝑢𝑣𝑖, meaning theft. 𝑢𝑓𝑎𝑟𝑚𝑒𝑙𝑖, meaning inscription or a superscription. �ⴼَرْقُنِي, meaning mountain. �ⴼَاسْتُبْنِي, meaning observance or keeping, so the observance of a tradition, of laws, of commandments, something like that. And 𝐲𝑿𝑐𝑒𝑑𝑢𝑛𝑖, meaning authority or power. Now here are some exceptions or something that is special about certain words which follow the 𝑗-stem declensions for neuter nouns. One of the exceptions are the word gawi. So the word gawi means district or region. The nominative singular, gawi, plural, goya. So notice there's a vowel change for some of the forms. The accusative singular, gawi, plural, goya. Genitive singular, goyis, plural, goye. Dative singular, goya. Dative plural, goya. And the word hawi, meaning hey, is also declined the same as the word gawi. Another exception is the word hoi, meaning deed, act, accomplishment, or task. The declensions: nominative singular, hoi, plural, hoya. Accusative singular, hoi, plural, hoya. Genitive singular, hoyis, plural, toye. Dative singular, toya. Dative plural, toya. So again, notice the vowel changes. for the forms here. And this is the end of our lesson today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. 𝑍��𐍄𐍃𐌼𝍃, 𝑍𝑔�𝐿𝑄𝑃𝑒𝑃𝑒𝑃𝑒𝑃. I will be back very soon with the next lesson. 𝑍�𝐿𝑄𝑃𝑒𝑃𝑒𝑃𝑒𝑃.